Hey everyone, my name is Matt, Cryptic if you prefer, and today we're going to talk about something. Today we're going to talk about my biggest regret as a 3D artist. And this is something that I've kind of mentioned a couple of times, and I've talked about it on and off here and there, but I figured like this would probably be a good kind of long form video to just talk about where my regret comes from and what I did to kind of correct it and fix it. Because the reality is you guys are seeing me at a very different place in my life than I was, say, 2 years ago. So let's talk about what my biggest regret was and how I fixed it. So my story kind of starts in high school. In high school, I started taking a 3D animation class because my school was a charter school and they offered it. And it was an awesome thing to have as a high schooler. I don't know many high schools that actually offer animation as, a class. And from there, I was able to join a program called Skills USA and compete both locally and nationally. And it was an amazing experience. When I was in high school, I had this idea that, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do like creature effects and like visual effects and stuff. And so I spent time working on my art to make sure that, I could sustain that and do that. And, I was learning. I went through 4 different applications. I learned Rhinoceros, I learned 3ds Max, I learned Maya, I started learning Mudbox and ZBrush, and it was like ZBrush way back in the day. But a lot of it was just a really exciting time for me because I was experimenting with a new art form. I loved it, it worked, it clicked for me instantly, which is something that I thought was really weird because most of my classmates were still trying to figure out how to move things around when I was already modeling my own stuff. So it's very strange to be in a class like that and then just have things just click. But that's kind of where I figured out, like, I knew this was right for me. I knew being a 3D artist was right for me. I knew I could do it. And so throughout those 4 years in high school, I spent a lot of time just building on my knowledge, reading books and stuff because YouTube wasn't really a thing. It kind of was, but it wasn't in the sense that we have it today. And so I just spent my time building my skills and learning from. And it wasn't until my senior year in high school where I had to have my, that conversation that we all dreaded as high schoolers was, what are you going to do after high school? I knew that I wanted to go to college, and I had planned to go to a local community college that we had here because I wanted to keep it cheap. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and I wanted to try to do it right. And so I applied, and then they got back to me and they said, hey, we're so sorry. We canceled this program. So this program doesn't exist anymore. So that local community college got rid of their animation program entirely. They shelved everything, they sold everything, it was all gone. So that sucked because that blew a huge hole in my plan. I was literally going to get out of college for like, I think it was going to be like $10,000 or $15,000, like way lower than what I ended up going for. So my options, then I had to kind of broaden my options. And my school at the time, my counselor, was telling me, oh no, don't worry about it. Just do it. Just go. Just spend the money. You won't regret it. Yeah. So I looked, and so I had 2 options. I had our local real college, our local state school, which was University of New Mexico. And then I had my other option that I had a friend going to, which was Full Sail University. Both of those were going to cost about the same. But for some reason, I had myself convinced that I was going to get a better education out of, the Full Sail school. So I went to Full Sail. I did the online program through Full Sail. It took 3 years. I didn't really learn much. So yeah, that's just kind of, that's how that went. So that kind of leads into the start of my mistakes. So during my time at Full Sail, I spent a lot of time communicating with my friend who was a writer. He was going for their writing program. And we had these ideas to make films. We wanted to make films. I thought, it's still within my range of things. I want to make movies. And so we started writing scripts and doing stuff. And then from there, we started trying to plan how we were going to shoot these movies. And we figured, well, we've got all the time in the world. We aren't on campus. We're online students, so we're good. Later to find out that he signed up for the wrong program, and it was a hybrid, like 1 month on, 1 month off thing, and he had to move to Florida. Completely blew a hole in everything. It shattered everything because we already had a studio name. We were calling ourselves Studiant Films at the time. I don't know if I even have that logo anymore, but if I have that logo, I'll throw it up somewhere here. So we were gonna call ourselves Studiant Films because we were students, and Eont sounded epic, so that's what we did. So at the time, we had to figure out what it was that we were gonna do to maintain this, and so we were using really crappy cameras. We had all sorts of stuff that we were just trying to experiment with and figure out. And so eventually, we bought like our own equipment, and we started trying to do like client work. It all failed miserably because we didn't understand what we were doing. We tried different things that we thought would put us at a level above everyone else, and they ended up just ruining every single shoot we did. So we did a lot of this, and we kind of just gave up. We tried to turn it into like a business, and at that point, it wasn't really growing anymore. There was a lot of projects that we wasted a lot of money on. One of which was like a feature-length film we were going to try to write. I think we ended up wasting probably $10,000 on it, and it never even got to the filming stage. We filmed one single trial shot where I did one single VFX shot on it, and it was a miserable failure. It didn't work. So that was kind of the initial failure. So fast forward a couple of years, we opened a new studio. That new studio is called Obscure Iris Films. That one we actually turned into a real business. We also decided we were going to make a web series. We were going to make multiple web series. And so we kind of went on our way. We started with the first episode of a show called Stranded. It died. We lost both the actors to both different reasons, and lots of politics went on there. But that project crashed and burned. So it failed right there, unfortunately. And so with that, we started working on other web show projects. We brought on people from the independent film community out here who just wanted to work on projects, and I brought in a new creative director, and things just kind of seemed to be working for a while. Like, we were filming left and right. We were filming projects at breweries. We were filming projects all over the place. Things were going really well. But the projects never got out of that phase because none of us could really figure out how to manage life and manage owning a film company and trying to make money and trying to do all this and working full time. And like, it was just crazy. So this kind of gives you an overview of like my first biggest mistake, which was I tried to dump myself into something that I was never truly passionate about to begin with. Like, my whole idea was like, I'm just going to be a filmmaker. I will do it all. I'll be a CEO. I'll be a entrepreneur. I'll be a director, a writer, like everything. I will do it all. And that blew up in my face so historically bad that I still deal with like the fears that came from that. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that kind of happens. So that was my first big mistake, was I did that. And I did this all for like almost 7 years. And during that time, I didn't touch 3D animation once. I did a little bit. I did some modeling here and there. I did these vehicles for Stranded that turned out okay, like by today's standards and what I do, like they're terrible. But I did these two pieces, and that's really all I ever did. Like, I never really buckled down and worked on this stuff. So like the idea of practicing what I did didn't happen. I was so overly concerned with running a film business that I didn't spend the time to do the things that I needed to do that I, was actually truly passionate about. So I ignored that for years. And that was the big thing that I attribute to like kind of where I am now, is that I didn't spend those years actually growing. I kind of spent them chasing just this endless loop of failure, because I knew eventually if I just kind of hit it enough times, it would work. And that didn't happen. It didn't happen. I closed the business. Like, the business is gone. That's all gone. That whole history is gone. So when it came down to it, like, that was a huge mistake. And so then after all that, we started getting into the realm of 2020, 2019, 2020. And we started what was both a success and a mistake, which was my streaming career. We started a stream called Tech Mess. And with Tech Mess, we initially started as like a tech podcast, which, you know, I'm a techie. I like tech stuff. And so I do tech things. I didn't really necessarily love talking about it, but I knew if we kind of kept working at it, we could make it popular. And so we did that for a couple of months. Then we started integrating gaming in because we were on Twitch and Twitch was gaming and podcasts were slowly kind of tanking. But, you know, we were all locked down. We were in COVID. So we were just doing what we wanted to do. And you know, we had a really good, I want to say 2 years of just like success, that like things were growing. We had really good viewership, like stuff was awesome. And then the lockdowns ended and stuff just kind of, you know, went to the wind, unfortunately. And it's not to say that like that was our fault. That was just the world. And so people went back to work. People started going back outside again. Things just kind of dithered off. And so we spent another year to 2 years trying to make this work and trying to force this to work until it really wasn't working for either me and Jake, and we just kind of fizzled off with that stuff and it ended. And that's when I decided maybe I can just give this one good try again. And so I decided I'm going to try video game streaming on my own. I'll rebrand the channel, which is where Cryptic Visionary came into play. I wanted to start fresh, I wanted to do new things, and you know, I never really dabbled with the 3D stuff. I dabbled a little bit with it with the Tech Mess stuff, but it never really got any traction. And so with Cryptic Visionary, I was like, I'm going to try to really get the gaming going again. I'm going to try to do this because like I enjoyed it. I had fun playing video games on the internet, but it became such a depressing thing to do. The thought of going live to play a video game became so draining and just so like just not my favorite thing in the world. And so I had to decide, like, was it time to stop streaming in general? Was it time to just give up? And so that's kind of where my big mistakes were. Like, I tried to spend all my time making stuff happen that wasn't going to happen, that I knew deep down probably wasn't going to happen. And then I spent so much time doing stuff that I didn't love. So when it comes to doing this stuff, you have to make sure, like, if things are continuously not working out for you, it's super important to kind of sit back, reevaluate what's going on, and try to figure out what you're going to do. And so I know I said this video was kind of going to be like my biggest mistake. This is really just my life story now at this point. But if I had spent those years working on what I do now, I can't even fathom where I would be now. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. So that's my biggest regret, is I spent those years doing things that I shouldn't have spent that time doing. I should have focused. And I tried a little bit. In 2020, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get better at 3D art. And I did a solid week. I did a straight week of all of these pieces. And I burned myself out because I was doing one piece a day. I burned myself out, and I gave up on 3D again. So I spent so much time trying to force all this stuff to work, and that's really it. Like, when it comes to finding your passion and when it comes to building a foundation for something that you love, you have to understand that, like, you don't have to make that into anything more than a hobby or anything more than just your release. I think my biggest problem was I tried to make everything that I was doing into a massive money-making, like, you know, this is going to make me a YouTuber, I'm going to be done. And it's just not the right way to go about it. And it took 4 years to figure that out. It took 10 years to figure out everything else. So, you know, in total, like, I wasted a good amount of time. I mean, I graduated in 2015 from college, and in 2024, I'm just now getting started. So about 9 years I wasted not doing what I love because I was so burnt out from college. I was so burnt out from trying to run a film business. I was so burnt out from everything, and I just didn't know where to focus. But now I spend my time doing the stuff that I want to do and doing these videos, and I love it. I love what I do now. I genuinely love what I do, and I haven't once thought about, you know, how do I turn this into, like, you know, a money-making machine? Because, like, that's not the goal. The goal is just to learn from myself and to teach others along the way. And so when it comes down to it, when you're trying to decide, like, what it is you should spend your time on, think about what makes you the most excited. Because I used to do that a lot, and I didn't do that for a long time until about 2023. It's really funny because I remember talking with my moderator, and I was currently in Disney World because I took a break. I was basically in the headspace that I was going to quit streaming because I wasn't going anywhere, and I was miserable doing it, and I didn't know what to do, and I was just kind of sad, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I remember talking with him, and I said, like, I want to do art, like I want to do 3D art, but I'm just worried that it's going to flop again. And we basically talked about how, like, I should give it a go, and I should do this, and like I should give it an honest try. And I remember having that conversation while I was sitting under a statue in Hollywood Studios. If you've ever been to Disney World, you know there's a statue in Hollywood Studios of Walt Disney behind a camera. And I was sitting under that statue, and I remember telling myself after that conversation that I was going to be creative this year. I was going to do the thing this year. And so I got home and I got started, and shit just clicked. And it's weird to say, but now I can look back at all of this and I can say, like, these were my regrets leading up to this situation, to this position, because like I look at everything I did, and while I still treat everything that I did, and this is important for those of you who are actually like confused on how to treat these things, I treat everything that I did as a learning experience. You're allowed to regret that. I think that's something that we don't talk about a lot. You're allowed to regret your learning experiences, but make sure you learn from them. Make sure you actually carry that knowledge, and make sure you actually learn from those things, because that's what helped me out the most. So now we're here a year later, and I have another video that'll be coming out at the end of the year to kind of further talk about all this, but we're here almost a year later, and I can't even like quantify what happened. Like, this year has been such a blur, and it's crazy. The people I've met, the things that I've built, the community that has been just growing underneath all of this, like, it's honestly crazy. So when it comes down to it, like, that's kind of where I am now. Like, that's where my biggest regret lies. That's, you know, I look at those and I acknowledge those things as my biggest regrets, but I also choose to acknowledge that those were learning experiences. I can take the knowledge that I gained from those experiences and I can apply it now to the future me and the future things that I do. And I know that I am steadfast and concrete in what I'm doing now, because I pushed that aside for so long and I didn't feel fulfilled until I got back on that horse and I started making 3D art again, because in the end, it was the thing that actually made me super excited to get up and go to high school, to get up and make movies, was that I knew at some point I was going to make the 3D art for that movie, or I was going to do the VFX for that movie. And like, I ignored that feeling. And so if you have those feelings and you think about it and you feel like something else is getting in the way of you doing that and having that feeling, push that other thing aside if you can. Like, if it's family, don't do that. But like, if you can push that thing aside and you don't have to focus your energy into it, do it, because it is so much more worth it. So that's kind of, that's kind of it. This was like a rambly video, and it's very strange to just sit here and talk like that. But I don't know. I'm sure my experiences will help somebody. I hope they help you. I think we all go through these different phases in our lives, and we don't necessarily talk about them all that much. And so for me, it's important to want to talk about those things, because for you guys, especially those of you who are just now going through school or just now starting your journey, like, this is the mistakes that I made that you can learn from, so you don't have to make them yourself. Not to say that you won't make mistakes yourself, but at least you can somewhat kind of learn from what I did, because that's the reality. Is like, I'm here to share my knowledge. I'm here to share my experience. I've got a lot of it, even though a lot of it didn't work out. I've got the experience to talk from, and to say, like, these were the mistakes I made. So I hope that helped. And if you guys like this video, let me know in the comments, because that's kind of how I gauge whether I should make more videos like this. If you guys enjoy it, or if you guys, didn't like it, like, whatever. But yeah, if you guys like this, let me know. If you want to see more like this, let me know. Let me just ramble on about all the things you could let me know about. But that's kind of all I got for today. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you like the content enough to support and stay with the channel, make sure you like the video. And if you are ever interested, you can join my Patreon. You guys get a video credit for joining one of the paid tiers, as well as free model downloads and my course, my 3D modeling course, which will be coming exclusively to Patreon soon. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.